All right, so let's get started. So today's show, what we're going to do is review 2023, and then we'll also talk about 2024. So as a recap, these are the things that happened in the last year. It's unbelievable, of course. If you just look at the stock first, the stock actually started off the year at $108 in January 3rd. And then, what happened was quite interesting was the EV credit went into effect on January 1st. It was a terrible month, as you guys remember. The price cuts, the global price cuts happened in January 12th. So shockingly, despite the price cut happening then, and all the kind of consternation by the analysts saying that the margins are going to be compressed for the rest of the year, the stock shot up to 202 by February, and it actually hit its all year high at 291 on July 19th. And then, of course, it's kind of been bouncing around at that point, and we're still today at 254. So the stock actually went up despite the price cuts that happened in January 12th. And we had a big event on March 1st, Investor Relations Day. We had the Jan 3 platform was revealed. They talked about the master plan part 3. Lots of exciting things for us Tesla investors, but nothing that really moved the stock, or it's one of those things that people kept thinking was forward looking. FSD version 11 was dropped March 19th. We had the Megapack factory in Shanghai announced on April 9th. And of course, this Friday was the actual signing ceremony. So that's moving on. The lithium refinery groundbreaking. This is the first time, I think they announced that they were going to do it January 4th, but then by May, that's when they actually had the actual groundbreaking. We had the annual shareholder meeting on May 16th. The big events that happened this year, 25th, was, my mind, this is the year that the legacy OEMs capitulated. And, it started off with Ford in May 25th and GM, supercharger partnerships. Everybody fell by then, and now it's December, and almost everyone except for Stellantis has signed up. And in the last month, we heard them basically pare back their goals for EV. And then, we had FSD version 12 demo, August 25th. This is, I think, for us, the first sign that there's actually a light at the end of the tunnel, that this could actually be the step change required to make full self-driving and robotaxi happen. Model 3 Highland was launched on September 1st. We had the second Tesla Bot demo, September 28th. This was the one where they showed us kind of the brains, the ability to make decisions, the way to, watch videos. And then, of course, just in December 12th, we had the second Tesla Bot demo that happened. Cybertruck delivery event on November 30th. They announced the expansion of Giga Shanghai, December 6th. And now that's where we're at. And then just a few days ago, the Megapack factory, as I said, was just signing ceremony occurred. So, this was, I think for many of us thought that it was a lost year, but in fact, I think that it's a strategic year. This is when legacy OEMs have given up. We've seen great progress for Tesla in terms of the factories. We wanted to hear more openings. Of course, we did not get to see the Giga Nueva Leon groundbreaking. We thought that was going to happen sometime this year, but they pushed that back. But at the end of the day, we saw Gen 3 platform, where we saw the FSD version 12. We saw the bot happening. So let me open it up there, and let's all reflect back in 2023. Christian, what was your kind of thinking of what happened in 2023?
Yeah, glad to join with everyone. Merry Christmas. That was a good synopsis, Herbert. The only thing I would add mainly is, I think we're in a consolidating year. You have to remember, though, there's a lot of positive things that are happening for Tesla. But just to go to the stock, since you talked about the stock a little bit, we almost went down 80% from that all-time blow-off top around 414, right? Almost an 80% down. So once Elon, I think the market, you know how we talk about markets being, crazy. A lot of times the markets get it right. The market sniffed out that Tesla was going to reduce price dramatically, and I think a lot of that, along with Elon selling stock and just craziness going on, the market, someone always knows, that something's coming, right? I always say it, and the market did run that before the actual price cuts hits. I think the general public or the smart money was knowing what was going on, and they were dumping shares. But this year, I think things look great. I think we're consolidating. We've made a couple runs to 300, but then pulled off it because earnings hasn't been too good. But you're right. There's so many positive things happening with Tesla Bot and V12 coming. Energy's a bright spot, and we have the stabilization of the car business. And like you said so eloquently, we have Ford, GM, essentially giving up in North America. Tesla has the whole EV market. They're going to get the subsidy on the Model Y all next year at the point of sale credit, which I think is going to be great. It's unfortunate that we don't have the Model 3 with that, because I think that would be such a great value buy, but it's still going to be great value there. We got the Cybertruck coming, which is also very exciting, having them scale that up, and we just have the continuation of Elon pushing the innovation envelope. So I think you did a great synopsis, and the only thing I'll say is, and I talked about this last week, I would just like to see the earnings somehow grow significantly. Now, I don't know exactly what shape or form that'll take, but I really do think to Tesla to take that next step, even though we have all that excitement, and that will be a bid in the stock. People want to be part of Optimus. People want to be part of that story, the FSD story. But I really do think to maintain, to push through 300 and get into this 400 area, we're going to need to see solid beats on the earnings, revenue beats, and bottom line beats. That's just my opinion, though. But love your synopsis.
Okay, thanks, Christian. And then how about you, Xander?
You called it a lost year, which I find problem with. I think it's a pivotal year would be a better term. When you go down to $101, you're at that point you're not fairly valued. So I think this recovery, to the 250 mark is logical. It makes sense. It's a much more fair valuation, even with the the forward PE being given, which is about 80 or 81.6 according to Wall Street numbers. I think that they'll outperform, so it's probably closer to like a 60 or a 50 forward PE. But I think it's a point where you're at you had a year that's a tough year that Elon and team were strategic about, and they did, in my opinion, all the right things to navigate it, and strategic things that allowed the company to have a strong balance sheet and continue its investment in the future. So if you're going to look at it at a quarter by quarter basis, or even a yearly basis, one can argue on the bear side, but I think we realize that the future is very bright, and as you stated in your synopsis, there's so many good things happening that I continue to be optimistic and bullish on the company. I think that 24 will be the year of the promises being delivered that are long overdue. So we're going to see things like maybe FSD actually delivering or maybe even removing the beta title, which is, I think, something important to remember. If that actually occurs, then the modeling from Wall Street has to change, and we'll see I think a chase of the stock price by the analysts, which can have an impact on stock price.
Yeah, to be clear, I don't think we go back to the tape. I don't think I called it the lost year, because that's certainly not what I'm saying it is, right? That's what some people think. If you look back, this was an amazing year, because you had this, you had Texas Lithium Refinery being begun. You had the Megapack factory announced in just a few days. It was actually, signing ceremony happened. You had, the Gen 3 platform was revealed, and they're starting to work on that, as we heard now in the Walter Isaacson book. You delivered the Cybertruck delivery event. So now you have two new vehicles coming out. And for us, us bulls, the things that we care about, you had Dojo starting production July 19th. You had the FSD version 12 demo August 25th. You just had the Tesla bot demo just that blows away December 12th. These things are massive. So you had movement in the factories, you have movement in Megapack factories and lithium, which is going to be the rate limiting step in the future. Then you got movement in the vehicles, and it's like everything happened. And then, of course, the one that the public is aware of is the supercharger partnerships. That's really the thing that they were looking at, and that's what it kind of looked at it. Jeff, welcome. We just reviewed 2023. I went down the milestones table. I'll release this table shortly. Just what I characterize it as the year that the legacy OEMs capitulated, but it's a year that Tesla really built the key platforms that I just talked about. How do you see the 2023?
Yeah. Well, hey, everyone. Happy holidays. And yeah, I do see it kind of like a table setting year in many respects, including the if you think about just the pure hardware auto business as well. Of you have a lot of capitulation globally, except in China, but really U.S. and Europe, a lot of the competition is coming. People are kind of stepping back from it. So I actually think it was an interesting year for them to also kind of set the table in hardware and grow capacity while everyone else is either stagnant or actually pulling back. Yeah, and then the bot, FSD, the supercharger, all the different agreements that are kind of the basis for future more complex agreements. So yeah, I definitely, and you can see it too. This is a telltale sign. When a company starts, and Alexander does a great job of tracking this and posting this on X, of all the different positions that they're hiring for. If they were in any kind of like stagnant or retrenchment mode, you would not see the kind of positions that Tesla is posting globally. So they're really, they're, the way I read it kind of from my background, and I look at like how much hiring they're doing, they're really planning on significant growth. There's no other way to describe it when you look at their hiring patterns.
So the Morgan Stanley report just dropped this morning, right? And Adam Jonas had a great paragraph, and he said, if 12 months ago I told you that Tesla's fiscal year 24 forward consensus earnings per share estimates would be revised down by nearly 50%, would you have predicted the stock would nearly double? That's precisely what happened. So there's something else driving the stock. And in their minds, of course, like as we do, it's like they're finally hearing what the retail investors have been saying, that it's not just the auto business. And what was interesting was they then say that of their $380 price target, their valuation of the core auto business is $86. That's it. 77% of that is going to be network services, mobility, third-party battery, FSD licensing, energy, insurance, all these businesses they talk about like Optimus and Dojo and others. That's what they're banking on. So it's great to hear an analyst think about it that way. And that might be the explanation. You had price cuts in January. People were freaking out that margins were compressed, and yet the stock moved along with the economy and the macro. Anybody want to talk about that? So Christian, you want to give a feedback of what happened in the macro in the last year?
No, I think it'll make sense. If you remember, like a few months back, Herbert, I was talking about the stock price, and I was talking about how, in general, AI, artificial intelligence, that Tesla, that would be a buffer, right? That would be like a Tesla put, a line in the sand that even though the car business is doing good, but earnings wasn't really accelerating that much, that would be kind of a buffer, and people would want to buy and own Tesla stock for that future, right? That future of Dojo, that future of possible licensing, that future of Tesla bot. And that's kind of the way I see it. And yes, some of the analysts have jumped on board with that AI, but that's the way I saw it, because I didn't see a huge earnings catalyst this year at all, and we really haven't seen it at all. So it really is, I think, a lot of investing is about the future, right? And Tesla is one of those companies that is very exciting. They're innovating on many different fronts, and there's a lot of different reasons to own it. So yeah, I agree with you 100%, and that fits my narrative, because I'm thinking, I want to own this for this other stuff. The EV business is great, but there's a limit to how much the EV, Tesla could be worth on just the EV business alone, just the business, even the Gen 2, just the business of selling cars and making a profit. There is a cap to the valuation that investors will pay for that. So you need these other things to start hitting, whether it be the licensing deal with FSD, Tesla bot. I just think making videos of Tesla bot, getting improving. I'm telling you, people laugh at me when I say it, but when people see those videos and it gets better and better and better and doing more things, don't tell me that doesn't get in the psychology of investors' minds, right? And they want to go to the computer and start buying Tesla stock because they see that bot and they could envision what it's going to be doing in 2, 3, 4 years. So I think that's hugely important. So yeah, I agree with you on that. I think we are that initial run being the EV business. I think that's still there and it could still be a positive catalyst. But I think we're turning to the AI side of things. And that's going to be the next 3 to 5 years, and that's where all the value, most of the value, will come from Tesla stock.
Okay. And Xander, did you want to contribute to that?
Yeah, I like what Christian said. I think this, back to the pivotal year narrative. I think that this, decisions by the stock holders or potential stockholders will come at a time when when there's cash sloshing around in their pockets. It's difficult for investors to to go, oh, let me take a flyer on Tesla's bots and FSD promises that have materialized by and investing now. So I continue to look forward. I think that the car business is like Christian said, wonderful and all, but that's not why I'm invested in this company. For me, it's more of the decade long play, and when the FUD articles continue to come, including robots attacking humans. I defended by with personal friends saying like, look, I'm invested in for the 10-year time horizon. If you want to make fun of the investment thesis for the past 12 months or the next 12 months, like I'm happy to take my shots there, but or my lumps. But looking forward, I think it's the thesis holds true. Everything is that Tesla promises eventually gets delivered.
Yeah, weren't you guys very surprised though that the macro turned the way it did? Many of us, not me, but you guys were so worried that we're going to hit a recession. You guys were warning about it. It turned out to be fine so far. I'm not going to jinx it or anything, but Tesla is so far been, absolutely impacted by the interest rates. If things turn around as they do with cuts being planned for next year, this could be one of the greatest things that happened for Tesla. Not only because the money that's sitting on the sidelines is about to flow back into growth stocks, but that specifically Tesla with the high asset purchase, they're the ones that's why they did the price cuts. Their margins could improve if interest rates go back up again. I don't know if you guys want to speak to that, Jeff, about the macro and what you're expecting for the next year.
Well, I wasn't doom and gloom on macro, but
Not you.
I definitely, I was definitely like, I was definitely mindful of it. I mean, there's still a lot of risk out there. I mean, I've always been in this camp of like, if we have a recession, it's going to be pretty shallow. I've also been in the camp of like, we had one in summer of 2022. We just, for whatever reason, don't like calling it a recession. But there was actually 2 quarters in a row of negative GDP, but the jobs picture was pretty good and still is pretty good. But if you actually think about it, we had the yield curve inversion, and then you've never seen, I think we've added like 0.7% of unemployment, and that's a lot in like a year. It was 5 to 0.7%. That's actually a lot. Usually when that happens, these are all kind of predecessors for some level of slowdown. And that's what we have. We have a slowdown. We have a slowdown from Q3 to Q4, and maybe there'll be a little bit more. But I mean, I don't know if this is where politics and the economy meet, because this is an election year. I don't know if the Fed and I mean, of course they're supposed to be separate, but I mean, who knows what's really happening. But that was pretty unexpected Fed speak at the last conference. Everybody kind of thought he would be super hawkish until the day they're ready to cut, and he was a little bit more dovish than I think people expected. So yeah, no, I think it's a good setup for Tesla, but it's going to take some time. I mean, if there is a March rate cut, that would be, there's a small percentage of people that are in that camp, but the rest of everyone thinks it's going to be, later in the spring for the first cut. And then, it's a quarter point cut. They do another quarter point cut. Every little bit helps. But it really depends where the economy's at. I'll tell you this, the core PCE cutting in half over the last 6 months, I don't think anybody expected that. And that's the Fed indicator. That's the Fed inflation gauge. They use core PCE. So that's actually now under, if you look at a 6-month rolling average, it's under 2%. And there's a lot of people, in CPI, the housing's like, I think 33% of CPI. I think weighted it to give you up to like 40%. And there's, that came in like at 6.5% year on year growth. So that's a big number in terms of inflation. And there's a lot of economists that are forecasting that 6.5% to drop 400 basis points over the course of this year. I mean, so we're in. I mean, we could have this accelerated, disinflation in front of us too scenario. So that could also be scary in another predecessor. But I think so far so good. But I also think we've never had this many this kind of acceleration of rate increases over a very short period of time. So I don't know if we've seen all the effects. I do worry about commercial real estate. I do worry about all these auto loans and that cliff forming. So there's a couple of things that I'm watching that could, those two things in itself could literally trigger, a recession. So, but in terms of my investing style, like I'm not sitting there thinking a recession's coming in the next quarter.
Yeah, and a lot of the money, as we've been reporting, there's tremendous amount of money that's sitting in the sidelines. They're now starting to invest it, and it's going to flow into growth stocks. I guess the things I'm asking is not just, when is the interest rates going to be cut? Clearly, that's going to impact kind of the point of sale of a large asset like a car. But when also might Elon feel more comfortable about his view of the future that he will, like I said, put the pedal to the metal? And we are seeing signs. And so, in the last quarter, he came out and said that we're going to not push full, we're not going to go full throttle on Giga Mexico. But last week, I don't know how we can believe this, how true this is, but the governor of Nuevo León said that they're having multiple meetings with Tesla. They're talking about potentially expanding Giga Mexico with multiple lines. Again, I don't know how true that is, but it looks like that, the Megapack factory was announced. You got the we're waiting for the groundbreaking in Nuevo León, and they're moving forward with the Gen 3 and so forth. So it's like, when might they then announce more factories and investing more? It could also be that, Elon wants to save more, put all of his money into Dojo, which makes the most sense in AI and the bot, as opposed to, another factory for the car, and just expand, as we've already heard, Shanghai, Germany, and Texas. Yeah, so, okay, let's just, anybody else, any thoughts about 2023 before we move on to 2024?
Yeah, no, I was going to just comment on what Jeff said. I agree. Jeff made a lot of good points. What I'll say is, just generally for the audience, like, we're going into an election year and we're having kind of a Santa Claus rally. This is just, this is factual, but it's not like a fundamental thing. Look to January, right? The first 5 days of January, if we're positive after a Santa Claus rally into an election year, usually I think 28 out of 31 times then you're going to have a positive good year. So that's just a technical thing. Like, if we get that going into 24, I think that's a good sign if you have a good January. I wouldn't want to start off January in a bad way. And just right, we've had a lot of indicators, right? We have this inverted yield curve. We have a lot of economic indicators that were, below 50, which was showing, contraction in industry. And so these things are still here. So, and just remember, when everybody's predicting recession, how markets work, odds are we don't get it. Now, everybody's getting very bullish. I'm not saying we shouldn't be bullish, but I'm just saying, if we're going to get a recession, it's when no one's looking for it, right? These is how markets work. This is how things happen. When everybody's like, okay, we escaped that one, out of nowhere, we get hit with something because nobody sees it coming. So I would just just throw that out there to just always be on your have your radar up, right? Because as soon as you think you're out of the woods, you get some news or something, and it just knocks you down. So I would just say be nimble. Even every year, you should be nimble and see what the price action's doing. Keep your eye on the fundamentals, but you also have to understand that things happen and we don't understand, especially this kind of economy that moves very slow, right? This is like a big ocean tanker kind of moving, and things could come out of nowhere and change that trajectory slowly. So I don't know, but I agree with you, Herbert. I'm positive. It looks like everything's good. We're getting a broadening out of the rally. You see these small cap stocks, the Russell 2000 is starting to outperform the Magnificent Seven in the last few weeks. So we are having a broadening out, which is good. And it looks like the economy's holding on pretty well. And just right, we're getting some slow, but I think still GDP 2 to 3%. So everything looks good. So I'm not bearish here. I actually did a poll and I said, "Are you very bullish, bearish, or very bearish?" And I think it was like almost 90% were bullish or very bullish combined. So sentiment is very positive. You're right. There's a lot of money on the sidelines sitting in money market funds at 5% that could come into the market next year. So yeah, I think things are lining up well, and I think we're going to have a good 24.
Now we're screwed. Christian's bullish.
Is he the inverse Kramer?
Inverse Christian.
Oh, yeah. We want you back, Christian. Be your negative self. Okay. So 2023, right? Lots of things happen as we reported here. As we look into 2024, what I'm seeing, and again, I'm just creating this list now. So if I'm forgetting anything, please send me that note. We have the IRA $7,500 EV credit no longer become a credit, becomes an instant rebate at the point of sale. That happens January 1st, except unfortunately the Model 3s don't look like that they're part of that anymore. We are still looking for the Model 3 Highland to be announced to be available in the US. Maybe that's Q1, maybe that's Q2. We are now seeing a lot of signs that the Giga Nuevo Leon is going to do their groundbreaking. According to the officials there, they said that they've got everything done. All the permits are ready. They're working on infrastructure around the building. And as they said specifically that it's up to Tesla now to make that announcement. They may not push forward with that because of what Elon said a quarter ago. There could be an FSD OEM licensing deal. Jeff has been talking about this. He said that, since they kind of said that there's in discussions with a large OEM for a licensing deal, it did not happen this quarter, but it may happen next quarter. Well, I'll give you 7 more days there, a few more days there, Jeff. The Model Y Juniper. Some people are thinking that might happen sooner than later. Omar from Homar's catalog was saying that, it's odd for Tesla to not kind of take advantage of all the 50% of the parts that they made changes to Highland to now start using it with the Model Y as well. Some people are talking about a Musk compensation package, that it's time for that to come. He's already finished his past one. There's going to be AI Day 3. We have conflicting reports here. We had one time, I can't remember which which institutional firm first said it was Q1 when they spoke to Tesla that the AI Day 3 will happen in Q1. But today, for Morgan Stanley, they put a question mark. They think it might happen in Q2. At some point, we're going to have the Lathrop Megapack factory ramp. We're going to have the 4680s, a little bit more higher volume production. Maybe there's going to be new gigafactories announced, new Megapack factories announced. Some people are debating whether or not there's going to be a compact car design unveil. The compact car or the robotaxi, is that unveil going to happen next year, or will they wait until it's about ready to be launched and then do it at that time? At some point, they have projected that Dojo will be top 5 in the world. Initially, they said it will be in, I think, in January, and then by the end of the year 2024, they expect it to be 20 times the compute that they had last time. And then they also talked about Tesla Semi going to go full on production in 2024. And so at some point, when are we going to get the Tesla Semi being 50,000 per year? We do have to throw in a milestone for the bot. At some point, they're going to make 1,000 of these, and we're going to see them in the factories based on the progress, based on the fact that this bot, the Demo 2, sure looks like it's getting very close to prototype, if not first production. This could be the thing that they start, and they make 1,000 of it. Anything else I'm missing, guys?
No, I think you were good on that, Herbert. But I think the big question is, and I would love to get Xander or Jeff, so they're going to ramp Semi. We got Cybertruck. I think that the question is, do they have enough batteries for all these products? And that's always been Tesla's issue. They have lots of products, but Elon's always said there's no point in just adding on incremental new products because there's a battery limitation to this. So, and semi just takes up so many batteries. You could use that in Model Y and make so much more money. You know, you can make so many more Model Ys at a better profit than one semi and use up all those batteries. So I don't know that semi. I can't see, even
You
though
just
I
answered
understand you're
you
bullish on it.
answered
I
your
just don't
question.
think semi is going to be a big factor. I don't see it as a money driver, and I don't see it as anything. It's when in the big scheme of things, it's puny on Tesla's sheet. It's nothing.
You just answered your own question. Then why would they announce full production of semi if they're constrained in batteries?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what is full production of semi. How many semis is that a year? I don't know. I'll put it like this. I'll believe semi when I see it. So it's one of those things. I think it's nice. I think long term it might be a great thing because it for sustainability, semi takes a lot of the pollution is from a lot of the big rig trucks. I agree with that. I just don't. Again, I just go back to the batteries. It just takes so much batteries to make one of those things. And I just don't see it in 24, maybe down the road. But I mean, maybe they're going to make it more of a priority. But again, your limits on what you can use, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I would rather use it in other products, put it in Model Y, put it in Model 3, use batteries for the mega packs, right? Their margins are going up even better than autos. So, I don't know. I think you have to make these, and this is where great management comes in, right? Capital allocation. Where's your best money? Where does the best served? Where are you going to make the most money? And I know Tesla doesn't only think in money terms, but it still is a public company, right? And their goal is to make some money. Where am I going to make the most money on these batteries, right? I think that's the way you have to think about Tesla. How much money's per batteries am I using, and how much money can I make for each kilowatt a battery that I'm putting out there? So I think that's important. I don't know, Jeff, you want to speak to that, or Xander?
Yeah, I can. I'd love to hear from Xander too. I think so. They're going up this ramp curve, and there's a lot of I think there's a lot of bad information out there. I think we need to wait for Tesla to report on it. It's not going to be this stagnant. I think they're going to be. I think they're going to reach escape velocity at some point this year on the 4680, just from the doubling effects and how I've studied ramps in the past. They've doubled the last couple of quarters. So I think it is. I think it could be a problem right now. I think it's an appropriate thing to bring up, but I also think it's something they're going to be able to move past pretty soon. And then for the stationary storage, they're using a lot of lithium iron phosphate for that. And I think they're going to work a deal with CATL to have them build a North America facility so they can get that into the IRA. So there's I think a lot of stuff on the horizon. You'll know the semi is serious in production when you see them hiring the personnel and you see that floor space, that additional building built out in Nevada. That was part of the expansion. So when they do that, then they're serious about semi. Until then, there's not really a production operation for it. So
the semi factory is the constraining factor there, not the battery supply. I'm reminded of that call where was it Zach or someone that said that we have enough supply to ramp the vehicles. Can you guys sharpen that and remind me what I'm thinking of? Was it for 23 or was it for 24 that they said that they have enough battery supply? Like that's not a limiting factor at that time. Is it like I think Q2?
Oh, go ahead. I think what you were referring to, I think they said they weren't battery constrained as far as energy or auto, that they could do the energy piece of it and the auto piece of it, and they weren't constrained. I think it was just a general statement.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't specific, but the point being that they didn't see that as a limiting factor. So, yeah, I think that they have, that they've been intelligent about their allocation of 4680s. You see now that Model Y isn't using any of those. It's all dedicated to the Cybertruck and that ramp. So, I think that they're going to continue to grow their 4680 in-house production, and seems like recycling is also coming up, and getting and they're able to buy all the cells that they need as far as I understand. I don't see that as that like they're trapped and they can't scale. Otherwise, why would you invest in factories to make vehicles if you can't? If the battery supply is a big point of concern.
Well, I agree, but I think that's why they, if you remember, like 6 months ago, everybody was saying they're going to announce like 5 or 6 factories, and I was saying no, they're not. Elon saw that he only announced one, the Mexico, and we're kind of nowhere with that. Yeah, they're saying now we're starting to ramp, but there's been a big delay, and who knows exactly? Like we have Austin. I never understood really. Well, Elon's still ramping Berlin. We're still ramping Texas. I'm just saying, like, we still have a lot of room there, and we're nowhere near our max output in those factories. So we still need to focus on Berlin and Texas, getting that to max output, because it's nowhere near there. Shanghai is doing amazing. Shanghai, right? China for Tesla is everything. They are killing it with production. I mean, they are just killing it in sales. We saw another report, great report. That's where their bread and butter is being made. That's probably where most of the profit's being made to fund all this other stuff. So, I think Elon's being smart about it. I think he's being strategic. I don't think we're going to get a lot of factory announcements. I know we're doing some new mega, and we're doing Nevada expansion. So that's enough, right? Like Tesla is not going to just throw money out there just to make everybody feel good. Oh, we're going to have all these factories. I think factory announcements are going to be maybe zero next year. I don't think we might get anything. And I just think Elon's going to focus on what he has and making that as most efficient as possible.
Yeah, I want to just clarify that I'm suggesting mega pack factories will be happening, not necessarily the need for new gigafactory, but mega pack factories. Man, there's going to be a couple of them at least. Let's have Emmett join us here as well. Sorry, Xander, did I cut you off? Were you going to say something?
I was just going to agree that with you, exactly what you just said. You have a pivot, as we said in 23, where Mexico didn't become the priority. It was drive unit economics or drive volumes. Don't worry about the unit economics, and don't worry about ramping factories. It's just continue to weather the storm, and you will see a return to announcements of factories when the time is right, in my opinion.
Two great topics Xander and Christian just brought up. In terms of factories, I think there will be factory updates at a minimum. Shanghai, it looks like they're going to go full bore there, and there's going to be wonderful things happening in Shanghai. The brakes are put on a while back, and it seems like the brakes are no longer being applied, so that's wonderful. Texas, Mexico. So there'll be some factory updates at a minimum. But Xander had asked about 4680s, and this is going to be really interesting for 2024. And I'm hoping as a collective community, we ask questions during the shareholder calls that actually get responses that give us real updates. Setting leveling the stage as of right now, 2023, they are not constrained by 4680s for Cybertruck. Other issues in manufacturing are a larger concern for the ramp up than 4680s. And I expect that to be the case into 2024, but there's probably going to be a point, an inflection point, where that might change. So in other words, unless they are able to get even better and better at manufacturing 4680s over the next couple of quarters, they may come to a point where the 4680s are again the bottleneck. So that's something I'm really wanting to pay close attention to.
Well, perfect. We have Dan here now. We're having this discussion. Were you listening in, Dan, or did you need a repeat? Battery constraints. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sorry.
There he is.
Yeah, no, I think batteries are definitely going to be an area of concern for a little bit, but just I had talked with Xander, message back and forth with him on the semi a little while ago, and I think they're going to build up a actual test line where they are right now, kind of like what they're doing with the Gen 3 in Texas, and then copy paste elsewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if that comment they made was around building up a test line right where they are. And then when Nevada is ready, they put in a real line there, and then also be able to put in a real line in Berlin for semi out that way too, because there was changes in the EU rules to be able to fit the semi on the European roads too. So I wouldn't be surprised that they hit both. And if 4680s are coming up as fast as we were hoping, then all those 2170s can go into the semi.
Okay, let's talk about other milestones that we're expecting in 2024. Which one are you guys most excited about, right? So obviously, I know that, Jeff, you've been talking about the IRA instant credit. You've been thinking about an FSD licensing deal. There's going to be some point Model 3 Highland will be announced, maybe AI Day 3. Anything else? What are you excited about? What do you think is going to be the most impactful for 24? Okay, Jeff's not there. Anybody else want to answer that? Xander?
Most
What's that?
impactful for the stock or for the company, like, or for financials? What are you saying?
I always think of company first before I think of stock, but that's me.
For the company, I think it's scaling Cybertruck. I think that's like going to be the highest priority and the most impactful for the company, and for the financials, in terms of the recovery of margins. But if like forward looking, what's most impactful for the company? Maybe FSD. I continue to seeing the progress. V12 to me is I really want to see the performance at scale.
For me, it's easy. I disagree. I don't disagree with Xander, but that's nothing for me. Cybertruck means nothing to me. Optimus. I want more videos. I want more new scenarios where it's doing stuff. I think that will be the most Tesla in the big scheme of things. When you think of Tesla, you're going to think robotics company to me. In 3-5 years, and even next year, I want to see video that will get into investors' mind, and they will want to own Tesla for that. To me, that's the easiest. Not easiest. Let me take that back. To me, that is the most practical. For me, something I can grab my hand on and say, this can definitely happen. Because I see the videos, I see what it's doing. FSD is great, but I'm not smart enough to know if FSD is going to work. I know, Herbert, you've done a lot of work on it, but me personally, I'm just, from my perspective, for me, I understand that robot. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I can see it improving. It's not going to kill anyone. It's going to do valuable things for society. It's going to do valuable things for humans. And it's most likely 99% of the time not going to hurt anyone. It's not traveling at 80 miles an hour. It's not going to make a mistake. It's not going to be caused by another human causing something and making a big deal on a road. To me, that pivot, when Elon pivoted to bot, I understand maybe because he saw with FSD, but you don't need, you could still have a valuable robot, a humanoid robot, and not have perfected FSD. In my mind, you could still do great things for the world with that. And there's so many use cases for it. And it could be so valuable for not only people to consume and buy, but for other employers that could implement Optimus into mundane tasks that could, unfortunately replace some people, but those people will get other jobs. But it would just be such a value creation for productivity in society. And it's so huge to me, labor, that for me, it's all about Optimus.
Yeah, I was just on Tesla beat, Tesla owner Silicon Valley, and I was saying the top three milestones for 2024 is going to be Tesla bot, and Tesla bot. I do think that I agree with Dan Ives that of Wedbush Securities, where he was saying that 2024 is going to be the year that Tesla hits $1 trillion again. That's just on the EV volume, just EVs, auto business by itself. I also think it's going to be the year of partnerships. We're going to see a tsunami of partnerships, not only on superchargers. I've been saying like Starbucks, McDonald's, all those guys will start announcing it, but there will be a licensing partnership with FSD or software, or even 48 volt. Might take a little bit longer, but there'll be announcements like that happening quite a bit in 2024. Those are the big things that I think is going to be a really big deal. I do hope that Dojo is a big deal. I hope that, because bot is only going to be as good as Dojo. Same with FSD, right? You need to have Dojo, and so we need to see them making continued progress, making continued investment. I'd much rather that Tesla invest significant billions of dollars on Dojo than instead of a new Gigafactory, and even instead of a new Megapack factory. I'd much rather them do more investments in Dojo and show leadership. And then that will be the year that Tesla 2024 will be the year that people are realizing this is a leading AI company, leading bot company, and then everything else will fall from that, like partnerships and others. Jeff, are you back?
Hi, yeah, sorry. Yep.
Did you want to say what you think for 24? I know you're big on the partnerships, right?
Yes, I do think that that's happening, and I think it can happen at multiple levels. I think there's a lot of Tesla's a lot of option value in terms of the hardware they've created, the supply chains they've created, and of course the software and AI that they've created. And I think at any of those levels, partnerships will be, and of course the supercharger piece will continue to expand. So I think there's just almost like multiple tiers of a cake that I think, but I do think an FSD partnership is underway. And the reason is it goes back to those three elements of what's important for AI. Well, it's having those AI engineers and talent, it's having the data, and it's having the compute infrastructure to process all that data. And Tesla's checking all those boxes. And it's going to be a very, very small game in town of anybody else who can check them. And even if you look at NVIDIA, like they don't have the auto integration skills that Tesla has. So, NVIDIA is working with a bunch of partners, but, they don't have the know-how and capability. Like if you're like, let's say you're the CEO of a major auto company. There's many reasons to pick a partner who you're going to work with, but you want to work with a partner that's actually put it on the road and actually has millions and millions of things already running. Well, there's only one game in town for that. That's Tesla. So that's why I think that it's imminent, because it's going to take them a couple of years too to integrate it. So I think I'm looking forward to a partnership being announced in 24. I'm looking for a number of things from them in 24. Looking at the ramp of the 4680, the ramp of the Cybertruck, really the continued expansion of Y and its leadership position globally. Model 3 Highland accelerating and really becoming kind of a gross margin winner for Tesla globally, because they've added a lot of features, and I believe they've taken the cost structure down. But we'll see how that plays out. And then I agree on the factory side. I think Christian brought up a lot of good points. I think they're going to expand by getting more efficient and using and just getting better output per square foot or square meter in their factory. And they can do existing additions to their facilities as well, which, again, that's another telltale sign when they slowed all those things down. That's a sign that says, hey, it's going to be kind of rough. But now they're kind of kickstarting all those things again, and they're hiring people. So to me, Tesla is gearing for growth. Now, that's going to be interesting. Like, what does he say on the earnings call? if there's a smart analyst on that call and Elon is negative again, like, well, Elon, I mean, if you look at your hiring, if you look at what you're doing with your factories, like what you're doing in reality versus what you're saying on this call are two different things. And I think an analyst honestly could have brought that up in October too, because a lot of those things are underway as well, but they didn't. But if you look at what Tesla is doing in reality, it'll be interesting to see if Elon starts matching words with that on the earnings call. Otherwise, it'll be a shitty price action after earnings. That's how it goes if he does that.
Jeff, I have a question on the licensing, and I'm just thinking out loud. So, who are they going to partner with? I know Ford was talked about, but here's the problem. Here's why I see maybe a partnership will happen, but here's why I'm not bullish it'll happen quickly. They're not making any EVs. So is Elon going to? They're making hybrids and ICE vehicles and very, very small EVs. They're pulling back on it. What's Elon going to like? Is he going to license to Ford when he knows they're not even pushing EVs? GM's not putting any EVs. Where's the natural partner that is putting the pedal to the metal and producing EVs that Elon wants to partner with? I'm just thinking out loud. Like, that's a legitimate question. Like, how's that look? What does that look like? Or Herbert or Xander?
I don't think it has to be an EV. And the reason is if FSD and gets so good, that it takes the probability of a crash from, X to Y, and it's literally 5, 10, 15, 50 times safer. Well, then it's almost, while you'd love for it to only be on EVs because you really want to accelerate the transition to EVs. I don't know how you can not allow it on ICE vehicles, and I don't know how you couldn't do. I mean, technically, it should work, but yeah, I think there'd be a lot more integration. But from a power consumption perspective, they've engineered that system. I think they'll run it like under 100 watt. I mean, it's pretty efficient, so they should be able to run it, on any platform. So yeah, I don't think it's restricted to EV. I don't think it should be.
I also think that, so you've got, yes, you're right, Christian, but it does take 3 years. I think Elon confirmed that if Ford decides today to partner with software licensing, it would take them 3 years. And so if they're planning for that now, this is when they do it. And because of the pullback, because they can't make any money, the choice has been made. They cannot do this on their own. They're not going to be able to compete, creating their own software division like Stellantis tried to do and others. So it's really out there. And before I forget, I just want to throw out that people are probably not fully aware that in September, Hilton announced a partnership with Tesla Superchargers. Best Western just this month announced a partnership with Superchargers. Uber partner with Tesla, small amount, but they're incentivizing their Uber drivers to buy Tesla. They can get up to $3,000 off. There was a hiring in the career page of Tesla showing that they're now looking for people to help with Dojo as a service, an API to help make that happen. And of course, there was an employee of Tesla saying, I just got hired to help build advertising, and I'm going to build a team to help me do video production and all that. So things are moving, and these are small little things that kind of going under the radar.
I wanted to comment. Can you hear me, Jim?
You're a little quiet.
Okay, I'll speak up. I wanted to comment on the robots. I'm in alignment with Christian. I'm a manufacturing guy, and actually tried to put robots in place back in the 70s. And there's like 292,000 manufacturing facilities in the U.S., and of course, a lot of them wouldn't have a robot. But from a return on investment viewpoint, if you have an operation in your factory where somebody's getting carpal tunnel syndrome, as an example, you would immediately do a financial analysis on this robot, and $100,000 would not be a problem if they could actually replace that person and get rid of that risk. So what I see is a lot of factories wanting to try the robot in their own implementation. So what I see happening is this year Tesla's going to deploy hundreds, maybe 1,000 in their factory. 1,000 seems like a lot for the factory that they're trying to put it into, but some quantity where they're getting real-time feedback, and then the next year they ramp up and you have already a built-in demand from the factories around the world that want to try it. And easily, the factories around the world is 100,000 units, not a problem. The other thing about the robots are they're live with FSD that works right now. It doesn't need any more improvement for the robot to work. And again, what Christian was pointing out is now I can show the investor community what FSD is as a vision system, which is what Vision V12 is supposed to be, right? It's pure vision processing. So I have the ability to market that and get people on board. Now, the other thing why I think robots going to lead FSD is I have FSD beta. I've had it for 3 years, and I just implemented it, and it's still making mistakes. I'm in New Jersey. The roads are crazy, you know, they're old, et cetera, but it can't handle sophisticated maneuvers. And I think in order for FSD to be fully deployed, we're going to need it to be able to back up so that it can correct a mistake and not block traffic, et cetera. And I think that's another 1.5 years away. And then, of course, you've got the laws that have to be complied with and the testing, et cetera. I love FSD, don't get me wrong, but it's just not there yet as an autonomous vehicle. So those are my thoughts. Any feedback is appreciated.
No, I like it. I mean, I liked what you were saying. I do think that the Tesla bot, you know, you don't have that risk. So I think that's where you're getting at, and I 100% agree. You know, I'm not an expert in the field, but I'm just using my just basic logic, right? You can use this, and there's not the risk and there's not the liability, especially to Tesla. You know, if you do a robo-taxi network, I'm not bearish on it, but I'm just being realistic, and that thing goes live, and there's a few incidents where it doesn't go right, you are going to have such an outcry and such a financial liability on the line there that I'm telling you that it could be very bad for the company, and it can be very bad, you know, publicity-wise for Tesla. So I agree. This is not going to launch until it is 105% ready to roll with almost 99.99999 accuracy. And I know they're going to get there, but I just don't know when they're going to get there. I think bot could be effective and would be a great, you know, selling point to the investor class of why to own Tesla more than an autonomous robotaxi network. I could be wrong. It's just my view.
Just want to add one other thing about the robots. In the 70s, the issue was the end-of-arm tooling. You ended up, it was just too expensive. And we actually implemented a robot doing something not important. But of course, painting was done back in the 70s with robots because you can program it specifically, you know, without vision, just geometry. So what I saw with this latest video on the robot was just unbelievable, the articulation of that hand. I mean, I could easily find an application in a volume factory making electronics, or I could try this thing out tomorrow with its capability. So I'm saying I think there's going to be huge pent-up demand. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, we'll get to you, Dan, shortly, but I just want to, I do find it funny that about March, I did a video with Scott Walter. We showed the bots. We started talking about how the bot's going to progress. 90% of the response from people were, this will never happen in my lifetime. It's going to happen 3 to 5 years. Don't you know how hard bots are? It's not going to be easy. Now they do a demo, then they do a demo, then they do a demo. Now all of a sudden people are going, of course it's going to happen. It's going to be 3 years. It's going to be, yes, it's going to happen. You need to be following the rate of improvement. You need to understand that a lot of things that they built for FSD, all the infrastructure with it, which is primarily the data warehouses, the ability to create even the actuators and others. These are things that are all been developed already as part of the same platform. Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go too. Is they're advancing the spot very fast, and unlike FSD, where, you know, even Elon commented the other day, you know, if all they had was California where it rarely rains and there's no snow, blah blah blah, you know, and it's been overfit because all the engineers are there, it's great. but unfortunately, there's a whole world out there. And whereas the bot, I mean, you could put it into a job and have, 5 or 6 weird things that could happen in that job, train it for those weird situations, and suddenly it's able to go to work in that one use case. And that's where I think the bot will advance faster, is because they can isolate the use cases that they put it into and not slow down the advancement, because as one bot is getting trained in one job with its 4 or 5 different weird things that can go on in that job, another one can be in another job, and then with a over the air update, both bots can do both jobs suddenly. So it's not like it has to be able to do everything that every human can possibly do on Earth to become useful. And that's kind of the area that FSD and driving is. It has to be able to drive in Egypt, has to be able to drive in Canada at minus 40 in a snowstorm, has to be able to drive here, has to be able to drive there. The bot is a very different thing. It can be cut down into individual use cases. So I think guys that are saying the bot will go first and be more useful and add to the bottom line could have something going there.
It's just amazing how many people I still debate with, and just a couple days ago, that they say that the bot will not be useful. It needs to have so much knowledge and built-in dexterity. And then I say, well, there's a company called Digit. Digit is already a bot that's already at work at Amazon. It's a pick and place. It doesn't have hands. It just has pinchers, and it doesn't have a brain, and yet it can grab a package and move it from one place to another. There's already thousands of jobs you can use that for today, moving around in a 6-foot area, and yet people just don't believe it. They can't understand that that can be done now.
That's why I'm so excited about the Tesla bot, because it can be trained with vision. And as Dan was saying, you can train it to do a specific task fairly easily, compared to buying a hard robot to do that task and the cost of that hard robot. There's no return on investment there. The other thing that Tesla has is they got the greatest manufacturing capability in the world. So they're going to be able to scale this up at a cost that no one will be able to compete with.
So what's our predictions for the bot in 2024? What's going to happen now? I would expect that an AI day 3, which could happen in Q1, that they're going to show, how they did a demo of the hardware, then they did a demo of the brains, then they did a demo of the hardware. AI day 3, they're going to show you the brain. I believe that the prototype of what we saw in Gen 2 is fairly close to first production. It looks very sleek. It's already got everything pretty well figured out. It can move the fingers. It can have a touch sensitivity. It can walk well enough. I don't know if me or Scott Walters saw anything there that was glaringly still needs to be improved. So the next demo at AI Day 3, I believe, is going to be a kind of a brains, right? Showing it at work, showing how it learned some task, and then showing how, as you say, once one learns it, the others learn it, and so forth. And then we'll probably see, 10 instead of 5. We'll see more and more of that. Any predictions from anybody else?
Yeah, my thoughts are, let's say they've got an advanced prototype or pre-production unit here. So they're gonna replicate that, as I said, 100 or 200, because they want to get into the training, the brain, as you put it. They want that real-time feedback from the actual robots. And they're going to do that sort of on the quiet. And as you say, they're going to demonstrate how the brain works. But in doing that, they're also going to start designing and ramping up the production facility in parallel, which I think they'll be in full production in 25. And when I say full production, like 100,000 unit capacity.
Yeah, I think they'll train, and like I say, as they can get a bot to do a specific job within the Tesla factory, and that's going to be their first goal, because they can do it and not have it out in the quote-unquote public. They can control it. That's how they're going to design the new factories. I think Nevada and Mexico, you're going to see that areas are going to be designed from square one to have Optimus as the employee. they got time to do it. They got a whole year, and if they can get these things working in specific jobs, then they design a factory around the Optimus, and then it'll have huge scale from there. People will be tripping over each other to get them. But I think Tesla will be the first employer of these things, obviously, and it could be a couple of years before they get sold onto the street, but it'll go quick once they've been proven within the Tesla factory.
Yeah. The reason why I'm very, very bullish on the bot is because if you stop and think of Tesla and all its businesses, what would you invest your money in? Other than Dojo and AI, the next thing would be the bot, because it would have the greatest impact to not only the auto business, but every line of business that Tesla's in. So it really is the thing that if you can, it's going to dwarf the auto business. It will dwarf the energy business. It may even dwarf the robotaxi business. I've seen projections from multiple folks that I've interviewed where they think that robotaxi or bot will both be kind of like, whichever comes first. But eventually, after like 2030, 2032 and all that, the bot just dwarfs robotaxi, right? So the next 5 years, depending which comes first. But if I was Tesla, I'd put, this is where I put the money in because this is the one that's going to have the most impact to all my businesses. Go ahead, Emmett.
I think 2024 and 2025, the bot is going to be a phenomenal sleeper. And Herbert just touched on why. But think of every single Elon Musk company, the bot rolling out into the different companies, different factories, and then the partners, like maybe Frito-Lay and other key vendors. They're going to have 2 years to just mellowly dial things out, and there'll be tours or events, and suddenly the Tesla community will be putting out videos and pictures going, oh, I was in the Shanghai factory, and there were 20 or 100 or 300 Tesla bots there. And then we start hearing that all over the place, and it's still not officially released. So I think a lot of that's going to happen because they can scale the Tesla bot so easily compared to making a car or even a battery pack.
Another thing to consider in the ramp up is the concept of beta. The robot essentially is a computer that's mobile, and beta testing is what Tesla's doing with the Semi, right? You give it to a customer, you say it works, but it's not complete. Give us feedback. So I can see them rolling out hundreds of these as beta units with no publicity, non-disclosures, et cetera. And again, look at the volume. If there's 292,000 factories in the U.S., there's at least 1 million factories worldwide. China is 4 times as big as we are. I've been there and spent a lot of time. So, we're talking maybe 1 million factories worldwide. And let's say 20% of those could use one robot. That's 20 million robot demand at the first shot. It's a pretty exciting opportunity. The TAM is incredible.
All right. So we basically covered 2023. We covered 2024. I think it's unanimous. It's either going to be the year of the bot, the year of the partnerships. But, it's also good news that EVs, auto business looks like if macro cooperates, will also be pretty well stabilized. Tesla's got everything happening and things are in line. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you guys follow Cyberbulls 1. You can see that there. Please follow us and we'll do these spaces every week. And everyone in the panel here. Thank you, Emmett, and thank you, Thinker, and of course, Dan as well. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.